a question that often gets asked when someone brings a complaint against another person. The question is, what did you do? What did you do? It's one thing to bring an argument against someone else and say, they did this, they did this, they did this. But what did you do? Now, you may think I'm going to ask that question of Mr. Ramirez. What did Mr. Ramirez do? No, I'm going to ask that question of Officer Waldman. What did Officer Waldman do? What decisions did he make? I want to go through the course of events, through the chain of events that took place a couple of years ago, the night of December 7th, and I want to see, what did Officer Waldman do? He's being held to answer for something here. What did he do? First, he is out with his partner on a rather routine police patrol, looking for a convenience store burglar, performing a public service, when an unexpected situation arises. The situation was unexpected initially because a car came up behind the officers, Officers Waldman and Levy, and was honking its horn, flashing its lights, acting very, very erratic, very uncharacteristic of just a normal, peaceful driver. But this was not a big deal. This was not anything that the officers were overly concerned about. They simply pulled their vehicle over and allowed Mr. Ramirez to pass. But what did Officer Waldman do? So far, he's done nothing. Officer Levy is driving. Officer Waldman has done nothing. Secondly, the second part of the unexpected situation arises when the car comes up behind them again. As they're driving, continuing their patrol, the car comes up behind them yet again. But again, this is not anything that is overly of great concern to the officers. They pull over onto a side street, allow the car to pass, but another unexpected event occurs. The car pulls in behind them on the side street, actually pulls in beside them, and the driver of the vehicle is yelling. He's yelling, he's calling names, he's making a huge scene. This is unexpected. The act of driving slow on a public road is not, it does not warrant this type of behavior. It's unexpected. Then yet another event that is unexpected occurs. Mr. Ramirez, who turns out to be the driver of the second car, gets out of the car and approaches the officers, Officers Waldman and Levy. Officer Levy gets out of the car to attempt to calm the situation, to bring some peace, some resolution. When he does, Mr. Ramirez and him begin fighting. Mr. Ramirez is very irate, very hot-headed, if you will, at this time. And Officer Levy and Mr. Ramirez begin fighting. They're fighting up against the side of the car. What began as a simple exchanging of harsh words progressed into a fist fight between the two of them. At this point, Officer Waldman is forced to make a decision. Now, this decision is based upon the fact that he sees a knife in the hand of Mr. Ramirez. He sees his partner get stabbed. This leads from the unexpected situation, it leads to an unquestioned sense of duty. Between the two men who are fighting, Mr. Ramirez and Officer Levy, Officer Waldman owes a sense of duty first and foremost to his partner, Officer Levy. He has an unquestioned sense of duty. Well, none of us would ever consider saying that Officer Waldman did not have a duty to protect his partner. The only question is, were the steps taken in fulfilling that duty? Were they reasonable? Were they justified? Well, the unquestioned sense of duty meant that Officer Waldman had to protect his partner. He had to do something. He saw the knife in the hand of Ramirez. He saw his partner get stabbed once. And you've seen the testimony. You've seen the medical evidence. You've seen the experts testifying. Officer Levy was stabbed. He was treated at the hospital for a stab wound. And it was fortunately not very serious. But he was stabbed. Officer Waldman had to do something. He had an unquestioned sense of duty to do something. And this is when Officer Waldman made his first decision. His first and only decision of the night. He did not decide to have Ramirez come up behind him. He did not decide that they should stop the car and Officer Levy begin fighting. He did not decide that Ramirez should pull a knife. Officer Waldman made no decisions prior to the decision that arose from his unquestioned sense of duty. And it led to an unwanted solution. Officer Waldman had to do something that was very difficult. He had to shoot Mr. Ramirez to stop him from stabbing his partner a second time. These are very harsh facts. The fact that a police officer had to shoot a civilian, it doesn't sit well with any of us when this sort of thing happens. But it was what Mr. Ramirez brought upon himself, and it was what Officer Waldman had to do. That was a decision that was forced upon him, and it was one that he had to make. So I believe the correct interpretation of the facts here, the unexpected situation, the unquestioned sense of duty, and then the unwanted solution. The facts clearly show that Officer Waldman was reasonable. He was justified in what he did. He had to protect his partner. It was unexpected. It was an unquestioned sense of duty. It was an unwanted solution, but it was a solution. It was an unwanted solution, but it was a solution. It was the right solution. It was the only solution. So what must be decided now is whether Officer Waldman was reasonable. Was he justified in what he did? Considering that his only decision that he made that night, he did not decide to fight. His only decision was to protect his partner. It was what he had to do. It was a decision he had to make very quickly. He didn't have time to consider what other possible options. Officer Levy was in danger of being stabbed. Mr. Ramirez had raised the knife to stab his partner, Officer Levy, a second time. Officer Waldman had to make a decision, and he did. He made the right one. So as you deliberate, as you consider the facts, as you consider the evidence and the testimony, everything that's been presented to you in the last few days, I would urge, respectfully request, a decision in favor of Officer Waldman. Thank you.